Hello, Steve White, TrekBoy89 for Steve Arts89. Well, I'll talk about something else today as well. I saw this the other night and I sort of was like, it's still a rumour. Apparently, CBS All Access is failing so badly. I mean, they're rebranding it as Paramount Plus later in the year, but or next year. But apparently, they're blaming CBS for Star Trek Discovery not rating well because facts are it's not. It's aired on certain stations and cable stations in Canada and the UK, and it got bad ratings. And the ratings they did get, they lost half the audience within a season for Discovery and within a couple of episodes for Picard. And I think after the second episode, Lower Decks lost half their viewers. So it's not doing well. And they're blaming it on the fact that CBS All Access is a paywall, basically. And people who might want to see it, who always watched it for free on free-to-air TV and can see the other series on syndicated TV for free, might have watched it, and that they're hurting the fan base. And it's nice they finally realised this. Because they did this with Voyager and Enterprise. They put it on UPN because Paramount was trying to launch their own network, and that made it hard for people to watch, and the ratings suffered because people couldn't view it. It wasn't accessible to everyone in the country, and it just was never a big network, and that's why it eventually failed. And they did the same thing with Discovery. They had no interest in making a Star Trek show until they needed a show to be the cornerstone for their streaming service, and they had Star Trek. That was one of their big franchises, so then they just decided to make a Star Trek show. Unfortunately, they already had a non-compete clause with the J.J. Abrams film, so they had to negotiate with them, which is why Discovery ended up having some of the issues that it does, because they couldn't just make Star Trek like they would have a few years before those films, before the contracts and licensing and all that stuff. So what's happened is apparently they're going to give Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Lower Decks to Netflix. So apparently things went really bad with Amazon after Picard, and they screwed Netflix over, and I don't know why Netflix is negotiating with them, but I think in order to have keep access to the original series episodes and the Next Generation and the original canon universe episodes from 1964, if you count The Cage, through to 2005, I think maybe they're going to have to take Discovery in that as well. Not directly, they've already got a contract with that, but I think they're just trying to be good with CBS because they want to keep Star Trek on Netflix. So apparently, this is what we hear. The rumor is that they are giving the series all to Netflix. So eventually, it's still behind a paywall, but Netflix has a much larger audience, so it will get more exposure and more people will be able to see it. Now, Discovery is already showing on Netflix internationally, which is how I watched the first 2 years. I haven't watched the third year on Netflix. I have not given them a single view. I'm not going to. I decided that when I found out they destroyed the Federation in the third season, I'm like, I'm not watching it. I will not watch it. And I've watched it, but I haven't watched it through them, so they haven't gotten my view. And Picard I watched on Amazon Prime on my computer, not on my TV, which sucked. Visually it sucked. The show sucked anyway. Even watching it on my TV couldn't have made that much of a difference. And Lower Decks, again, I watched on my computer, and I could have watched it on my TV, but basically it wasn't given international distribution, so no one internationally has seen Lower Decks, and not as many people have seen Discovery that because of the paywall on Amazon Prime and all that, and being on different networks. So having them all on one channel now, like they used to before they made Discovery, because Star Trek, all the Star Trek shows were on Netflix, and then my understanding is they pulled them off Netflix because they were going to put them onto CBS All Access. Then they realized they didn't have the ability to do the international distribution and have cover international audiences, so they gave it back to Netflix, and then they sold Netflix the rights to them basically, and to make Discovery, and the money they paid for the rights for Star Trek basically paid for the first season and half the second season of Discovery or something, some part of the second season. So Netflix unfortunately thought they were getting a Star Trek series, and they weren't, because I don't know who they negotiated with, whether it was Secret Hideout or CBS All Access, but they didn't tell them that the way the deal was run. And they thought they were just buying another Star Trek series, which Star Trek fans would love, and it would just become part of the catalogue. They got a very divisive show that it's not a science fiction show, it's science fantasy and space opera. It's not a utopian future to aspire to, it's a dystopian mess to sort of avoid. But they don't acknowledge any of those issues, and they seem to be making the excuse of, well, having it on a limited streaming service hurt it, so we're going to put it on Netflix and then it'll be successful. It'll still be the same show. People might watch it because they'll think, oh, another Star Trek show I haven't seen, how great, and then they'll watch it and be like, especially if they've just gone from binging seasons of the other Star Trek shows, jumping to Discovery is going to be like, what the hell is that? I mean, yeah. So this will be interesting. I've heard talk on Midnight's Edge as well, because this came out, a particular person did an article. I really should be quoting who they are, but I'm not reading from their article, so I'm not actually stealing any of their text or anything, any of their views or anything. So apparently they broke the rumour that Wonder Woman was going to streaming, but a lot of people speculated about that. So whether they actually had evidence, they say they know someone who was working at CBS or something, or CBS All Access, so they know for sure that this has happened, and it's not a rumour and that. So I heard Midnight's Edge talking about it. Whether they've got their own sources or whether they just saw this article as well, I'm not sure. But it seems like Discovery, at least for American audiences, will be going to Netflix, and Netflix will be getting Picard, I'm guessing international as well. Because here in Australia, we had Channel 10 not doing well. We've got Channel 7, 9 and 10, which are our main commercial channels. And then we've got like old school TV channels. And then we've got the two sort of other networks, ABC and SBS, which are not commercial. So Channel 10 was bought by CBS. And then I thought, does this mean Star Trek's suddenly going to be on all the CBS channels, all the 10 channels? Because on digital there's like 3 or 4 different 10 channels, and now we do have that. We have Star Trek. They were already showing Star Trek, so they must have had deals with them. They were showing the original series on the 50th anniversary, and then they did the second season and the third season, and they started doing Next Generation, and they normally have 2 series at a time, so it'd be like the old days of Next Gen and Deep Space Nine and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, where they'd sort of be showing Next Gen and Voyager. They weren't showing Deep Space Nine because it's not really it's not really Star Trek. It's a good science fiction show, but it's not really Star Trek. It's pro-war, and just it tries to bring Star Trek down. It was the sort of pre-Discovery, that sort of the proto-Discovery, where it was sort of trying to bring current day issues into Star Trek and make it just like today, which the whole point of Star Trek was it was a utopian future that we could aspire to and escape to. That's what made it special. So making it more gritty and realistic and more current to today's sort of issues, it doesn't work. Doing that in allegory with aliens and stuff like that, in a way that's vague enough that people don't get offended by it, but done well enough that you get the message across to people and provoke them to actually think about the situation when they wouldn't normally think about the real situation and the politics, was what made Star Trek brilliant, and that's something that's totally lacking from the new show. But so that's the new rumour. I sort of want to talk about that, kind of curious to see if it actually is true, because you hear a lot of rumours from people, like Midnight's Edge, more Doomcock, he seems to be more about rumours. Midnight's Edge is more talking about industry stuff, which is interesting. And Doomcock's been right a few times. He's been wrong as well, and I'm personally a bit bitter about that, because the rumours that they told that were wrong, I believed in and wanted to be true. I wanted Discovery to be cancelled after the second season, and Picard to be cancelled after the second season, and all these sort of rumours that didn't come true. And you see them walking some of them back now, which is kind of funny. Like they were all saying how Kathleen Kennedy's been fired. She's basically just staying there to keep appearances up, and that she's out and she's not involved anymore, and she'll be leaving before her contract's over and all this stuff. And she's actively involved in a lot of stuff now. Now, whether creatively she's involved or whatever, but they're walking it back now and saying, oh, she's going to be there till the end of the contract. They can't get rid of her. I'm like, I'm sorry, weren't you saying she's already gone? But that sort of stuff does happen. I mean, that's part of the problem with rumours. You can never be sure which ones are right and which ones are wrong. So I can't hate them too much for that, except they gave me hope when they shouldn't have. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, and maybe even hit the little bell button, because that actually, you know, helps you actually get notifications about the videos. But I'm going to go and see if Star Trek pops up on my Netflix. Bye.